He's the firstborn son of the king.
You will be with your own child sooner than late.
I do not wish to get married.
Even I do not exist above tradition and duty, Rhaenyra!
None of it needs be this way in truth. No one's here for me.
Princess!
Well, yeah, I guess the first thing I was wondering about is how was this show pitched to you? What was the kind of sell?
I mean,
There wasn't.
we didn't know what it was.
Kind of went in really blind.
Yeah.
Yeah. But when you get an email from HBO being like, oh, we're going to do this new big show, you kind of immediately apply and just trust them.
Yeah,
So
regardless of what it is.
There was no pitch. We weren't big enough to be pitched.
No,
to.
it was just untitled HBO project.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, cool.
So what happened when you got to the meeting? Like, did they then tell you what you were? Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, for me, it was the second audition. They spoke about what the project was and everything, but they weren't releasing scripts. All the scripts were mock scripts, and the character description was a bit ambiguous. It wasn't very specific into who we were playing and where we were gonna. Well, I was integrated within the world. So yeah,
I was pretty much the same in that I found out sort of a few auditions in and was obviously very excited.
When you found out what it actually was it like, okay, whoa?
Oh, yeah.
see, I just started laughing.
You're laughing?
I was like, "You're right. This is so it was just so silly, just complete disbelief." But then it was like frustration because I was like, "Well,
you're
damn
not
it!
gonna
Now
know."
I'm definitely not going to get this." I mean, if it was something that was a bit, less big, then maybe I would have had a shot. So yeah, it was laughter and then initial just
Immediate loss of
complete
hope.
frustration.
How would you describe the motivations of each of your characters, and what bonds them as friends? Do you think?
Motivations-wise, I think it's nice that Alicent's motivation is sort of left ambiguous. I think for the most part, when we first find her, she's a people pleaser. That's kind of her motivation, is just to keep people happy, keeping people's good books, regardless of how it affects her feelings. And that's something that she definitely breaks out of further into the series.
Yeah, I think Rhaenyra is motivated by a lack of satisfaction within our world, a lack of being heard, a lack of respect, which is quite ironic because she is a royal, but because she has only ever been a royal, she can't imagine. She doesn't really have the emotional understanding to empathise with people who aren't highborn as her, and she's, you accept the world that you're brought into and the way that things are. So I think that's what motivates her, and ultimately Alicent, she enjoys being around her, and they kind of, they absolutely adore each other, and I think that she really sees her, so that's where their bond, well, that's why I think I like you, basically.
I think they're put together through circumstance, it's a very niche thing, the niche way that they've grown up in this place of privilege, but still
young women.
Yeah, young women.
Still the bottom of the food chain in the high, you know what I mean?
But they have like this facade of being at the top when they're really not at all.
Well, yeah, that was the next thing I wanted to ask. Do you think it's fair to say they're both kind of chafing against and kind of learning to navigate this kind of patriarchal society that they're born into?
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, and I think that we get the privilege of playing them at such a pivotal point in their lives where they haven't quite accepted what they can and can't do within the world. So we see both of these characters in their own ways combat those feelings and try and play against it and try and go with it and try and be submissive or outrageous. And it was so much fun to be able to play that.
For sure. And I think what's interesting is that both of these women react and respond in completely different ways.
Different, yeah.
You both seem quite loyal to their respective fathers, but does that loyalty or obedience maybe kind of waver a bit as the series goes on?
I think any adolescent or teenager can safely say that your respect and loyalties waver a bit in your young adult years. So let's just leave it at that.
I mean, I was going to say that, I think Alicent goes on a journey of remembering that her father is a human being, and it's like, there was a quote that I read somewhere that I brought in, which was just, you forget that your parents are doing life for the first time too, and they aren't actually
very marriage story.
Gods and goddesses. They aren't it is. They aren't everything you think they are when you're 10 years old, And I think Alicent certainly starts to recognise that throughout the series.
There are actors playing older versions of your characters. How do you chat to those actors about things, or
I haven't spoken to them about it.
Is that how do you navigate that? Is that quite strange knowing?
It is
You're
strange.
just like fumbling in the dark, hoping that you're doing something right, and that someone will tell you when you're not.
Yeah, it's a huge amount of blind trust in the team.
It's a lot of blind trust.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think basically 10 years is just a really long time. So, of course, it's almost like we're playing different people.
Yeah.
The characters change massively. It's not just the circumstance and the people around them and the actual events that go on in those 10 years, but there's a whole amount of growing up to do as well.
What do you think will surprise people most about this show?
How much they can't find a character to wholeheartedly love. I think that the show is really clever at making the people that you're like, oh, I love you, and then you're like, oh no, but you did that thing and I don't like you anymore, and then there's no goodies or baddies, which I think is really, really just clever writing.
As
Just
George
great
said,
writing.
he writes grey characters.
Yeah.
There's no one really to love or hate.
Yeah.
You hate them sometimes, then you love them the next time.
What was the hardest scene to shoot of all? If that's not too hard to specify.
Hardest / most exciting for me as an actor, there's a whole web of lies that comes about throughout the series in the time that we play the characters. And at some point, they start to disintegrate and the web starts to unfold. And so there's a huge... Trying to not spoil anything, it's really hard. There's like lots of discoveries and lots of confessions and lots of things unfolding, secrets and lies, very Game of Thronesy. But there's a lot of scenes to do with that story that were very difficult emotionally and pushed me to places that I didn't realise I had as an actor. But
Mine was the dragons.
the dragons.
Mate, I just didn't know what to do with my face. To be completely honest with you, I mean, you're up alone in a soundstage by yourself for 3 days. It was not my favorite time on set. It was kind of on this machine, and I was like, I don't know what to do with my face. And if I open my mouth, the wind gets in, and then you've got the weird, like the leaf blowers. So that was really hard because I just didn't know what I was doing.
Did you go to the camera after each take to see what it looked like?
Oh god, no! I think I would have spiraled, but I just kind of trusted.
You never looked.
I just trusted Miguel to direct me if I was veering onto the wrong path. So yeah.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.